up in the morning, beneath the stars so bright. Pull your hat down, make sure your cinch is tight. Horses kinda snuffy, cold chill up your spine. You'll get your ass moving, son, we're burning daylight.
Howdy there, I'm Matt McKinley and we're burning daylight.
In the saddle till the job's done right.
Welcome to Burning Daylight, the only podcast for the working cowboy. Well, welcome back, Daylight Burners. Sitting down with Cliff Schadt on a Friday night. A little late over on your end. I apologize for the I always forget, like some of my people I really like to talk to are all on East Coast, and 3-hour time difference is a little hard to line up sometimes. But I'm glad you were free, and I'm glad you're tolerating me at a late hour. But
I'm a night owl, so it's all good.
I am too, so it's so I'm glad to hear it. We were talking a little bit before. We're gonna scroll through the glorious source of entertainment that is known as the private Facebook group private group on Facebook called Nonviolent Equestrians. It's a really fun place to just be entertained. And we've done it before, and actually I got a comment on YouTube the other day that the gal was actually a little disappointed that we didn't talk enough about Nonviolent Equestrians, and then the founder, Miss Becca Rhodes or whatever her name is,
yep,
and how much of a fraud she was, and so now maybe we'll do a little bit better job of that. But honestly, I don't want to expose anybody as a fraud. I like the entertainment value of it.
I do too.
Because they're just their mindset is that a horse should never feel any pain ever, any discomfort whatsoever, and
I think how would you describe that page for the uninitiated, for those that are listening here that don't understand it? How would you go about describing that? Because it's kind of a circus. It's a different kind of deal, but how would you describe that page in a nutshell?
It's a cross between like a horse rescue group and a social justice rally.
Yep.
But for horses.
Yeah, and it's all headed up by there's one kind of main person at the center of it all that. And I don't know how many followers she has that actually believe her or like her, but there's this one person, Becca, in the middle of it all that, as far as I can see, is a fraud. And that's just my personal opinion, and I'm here to say it. But at the end of the day, I'm not even sure she really cares about horses. I think it's more about the drama that
I think she's addicted to Facebook groups. You know, it's
I'm with you.
It's like the same thing where you see, like Keith Olbermann on Twitter, where it's just, or even Donald Trump on Truth Social, where it's just like a stream of consciousness all the time, and you're just like,
just can't stop it.
Do you not have anything better? Because I'll post a string of memes, and then I'll just kind of ghost, right? Because I try not to be on my phone, because that shit is addictive. Like if you start to like pay attention to how you act, you're just like, God damn, I'm addicted to that damn phone.
Heck yeah.
And it's not good, but it's not necessarily all a bad thing. A lot of good has come from social media. A lot of good's come from the internet, and it's and we also like you get to just witness some of this shit, and a lot of the people in that group I think are truly well-meaning. You're like people that'll pay big dollar to go to a Pirelli clinic, and they love horses. They're not, but they're
not bad people.
No,
Yeah.
they're horsey people. They're not horse people. They're not horsemen. They're not horsewomen. They're horsey people.
Backyardigans.
Yeah, and that's all well and good, but they have this misguided notion that any sort of tool that employs leverage on a horse is an act of violence. That's the part that gets me is an act of violence. You're like, no, like that little extra stout jab you give your horse in the ribs. That's not an act of violence. It's just like a hey, pay attention.
Yep, it's no different than my old man biffing me in the back of the head when me and my brother were fighting with each other in the church pew as kids. You know, he'd reach his arm over there and just give us a quick pop in the back of the head. There was nothing violent, hateful. He loved us, but he wanted us to hear the message for the day, and that's how he got our attention. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. I don't hate my dad because he biffed me in the back of the head in church.
No, and it's kind of the same way, like on a yeah, you know, when you're riding in a snaffle, and say that horse doesn't want to flex one way. I view it a lot like when like I take my kid by the ear and like lead him out of the room because he's not listening. That's a lot like when you reach out there and pull their face around and get them to bend. Like it's just like it's an exaggerated motion with like the consequence implication is there. They can feel it. It's like it's not a whipping, but it's like it's like hey, or pay attention or
just we're gonna go. Moment.
Yeah. And you don't want it to escalate. Like the ideal is for them to get the point and then relax, give, and then you release. If not, you have to step it up. Otherwise, they don't get the point. Like or try something different, you know. And I think that's kind of most of these people is like try something different. So it's the path of least resistance. But I don't know. It's a different worldview than reality.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't realize, like as having spent a lot of years of my life as a working cowboy before kind of focusing more solely on the horse train aspect of it, I saw some guys that were rough here and there, but usually those guys didn't really last in that world for too long because truth of it is you can't pick on a horse for very long before that horse has a clear sense of what's fair and what's not fair. And that horse will quit you, man. He'll quit you probably at the time you need him the most. And so most of the guys that I was around, even if they weren't horse huggers and they may not even really liked horses, but their goal was to get along with them horses as good as they can so that their day wasn't spent fighting and arguing with a horse, out in the middle of BFE somewhere. And I think a lot of these people who are kind of uninformed, they don't realize that. We're not just out there courting these horses around and ripping their teeth out and everything else. Every guy that I rode alongside, it was like, some of them might have been a little harsher than others, but at the end of the day, most of them guys wanted to get their horses to a point where they didn't have to think about that horse very much. That horse was working with them and for them. And I don't think many people who haven't spent, a lot of days out in the big out there, riding around after cows, I don't think they fully understand that aspect of it.
Yeah. A guy that's real busy doesn't pick many fights with his horses,
That's right. Exactly.
Like, I've been known to pick a fight or two with my horse here and there, but it's usually it's never on a busy day. It's when I'm bored. Things are a little slow.
That's right.
And that part's kind of time. And your horses will do that too. I mean, when they're bored, they'll the classic feedlot move is they'll just ram your knee into a gate post they're bored. They don't do that shit when you're actually working. It's when you're just like when you're both kind of dazed going from pin to pin. You're like, oh yeah. He's like, fuck this guy. Bam. Right off the gate post. You son of a bitch. And and so that extra sharp jab in the ribs, that might be a little bit of retribution too, because I'm getting him back. And it's funny how much your horse is like your good buddy, because you're not afraid to hit your friend.
That's right.
And I'm not afraid to give them a good horse a jab when they did something they know that one they weren't supposed to do.
Right.
And
Right.
I don't classify that as violence. It's
To a
I
certain
don't
extent, it's accountability.
know. Mm-hmm.
It's the same way with my buddies. I mean, if my buddy is being ignorant, and we go out and have a couple drinks or something, my buddy's getting ignorant, I might grab him by the collar and be like, "Man, you need to get it together right now, or we got to go home."
Yeah,
And
especially
that,
like you've got us in fights before, and I
right,
don't mind jumping in and throwing hands if I have to, but like I'd like to sit around and drink some beer and
right.
not
It's
have to
kind of
bail your ass out again.
an accountability factor there, and I think it's the same with my horses. It's like, well, if I know my horse kind of cheated me, the last, I went to build to a cow and she kind of sucked back and cheated me a little. Next time, I'm going to remind her that she needs to step up there and put me in position.
Mm.
And, usually a quick reminder, quick, sharp, to the point, get in, get out. And that horse goes, oh, yeah, I better not suck back here, or I better open up my stride a little bit. And
Yeah,
I think a lot of times, people don't understand that to me, the big difference between abuse and just a correction or a redirection is what kind of emotion you have behind it. So if I grab a hold of my horse and I set him on his tail because he was running through the bridle or something, and I do that because that's what he needed in that moment, that was just a correction. If I do it over and over because I'm mad at him, or I'm pissed off because I had a fight with my old lady that day or something, well, then that would border on abuse, because you're just taking something out on it. There's no point in what you're doing to that horse. And I think that's something a lot of people miss, is that sometimes horses are physical. They kick each other, they bite each other. That's how they communicate when they're wrong in their world. So obviously they're physical learners, so why wouldn't we kind of carry that through to them in that way? And it's about being fair at the end of the day.
yeah, yeah, and each horse is a little different too. I mean, there's some horses I have no problem, popping them on the ears if they're doing something stupid, because I know
Yep.
they can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other ones I don't say go anywhere near their head when I'm doing any sort of discipline, because they're just they don't like their head being messed with, and like
Yep.
I mess with it still, but like I'm not in a correct in a disciplinary way. It's
Yeah.
I try to desensitize as much as I can, but if they're head shy, last thing you want to do is discipline them with by smacking them in the head. That's
That's right. That's right.
like you ain't getting that head back for a long time. It takes a lot of more desensitization to bring him back. And
Yes,
it's
sir.
yeah, but we're also saying like even though there's a lot of really stupid shit that happens in this group, there is some like your liberal friends. They're not wrong about everything. They're wrong
No.
about a lot of shit, but they are right on some things, and
Yep.
that like there's some decent points made here and there. You got to wade through a lot of bullshit to find it.
Yep.
But like this post here, I'll pop it up on the screen. Um, it's this is one of those bits that I don't really understand it,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's a mechanical hackamore
Yeah. It's a hack a bit.
with kind of a
High
like a
force,
a high
high force
correction.
correction that has a gag action too, because that slides up and down with that seat.
Yeah,
So yeah.
and then we're looking at about 6-inch shanks.
Yep.
A lot of leverage.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, that bit probably shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So I mean, solid point, ladies. It is mostly ladies in that group.
Yep.
It's weird the dudes that subscribe to this nonviolent
Yeah.
equestrian stuff they're a special bunch, but
They remind
yeah,
me of
so
baby roosters.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah,
puffed up and strutting around, lords of a small world.
yeah. I would bet they also identify as male feminists.
Yes.
Um, So here we go. This is the main gal. Can you imagine choosing this photo as a good representation of your sport? You
Oh,
put sports in quotations, and it's a breakaway roper.
yeah.
Um, but all in all, that horse isn't gapping his mouth very much.
No,
He's
no.
got a tie down, but it's an arena event. You're gonna have that. Um,
But let's
I don't know.
not forget that horses have been ridden into war. I mean, straight up war for thousands of years, pulling chariots, carrying
Mm,
knights. I mean, all sorts of things. I mean, dressage, modern dressage stemmed from uh, building handier horses. That all the movements in dressage were used to fight off of, to be able to spin, to be able to jump up and kick, to be able to move in place without covering any ground, so they could keep that horse light and moving. It was all for warfare, and that's where we have modern dressage. A lot of people don't know that, but my point is that people can cry about a horse, for 10 seconds running out of a box, stopping hard one time, catching a calf, and then going back to his luxury trailer with every supplement and every type of feed. And most of them good rodeo horses, they're treated better than any horse. I mean, they're treated dang good. And so for that horse to stop hard and he flips his nose up in the air because she might have caught him out of balance or something like that. Yeah, it doesn't look good in a picture like that, but at the end of the day, I think those horses know their job, and I think most of them like their job. And obviously when you get a horse that doesn't like his job, he's not going in the box or he's flipping over on top of you. So truth of the matter is them horses will let you know if they think it's unfair or it's not working for them.
yeah, I mean, like you see him got their head up and whatnot, but
Yep,
that horse's ass is still sitting down though. So that's
that's right.
like it may not look pretty, but
Yep,
rodeo is also not a style
yep,
points deal. Like
that's
or at least on the timed events,
yep,
you know, style points only goes to the roughies,
that's right. That's right.
and so you're not getting scored on your appearance. It's all strictly time.
Yeah,
So I mean, uh, like some of the best ropers that I know, like they're like awkward looking as shit. They don't
yeah.
they don't look pretty doing it, but they
No,
always catch.
they're efficient. Yeah,
Yeah, and so it's just I don't know. It's a different sport, and
yeah,
like if you attribute any of that type of stuff that they don't like, so the tie down, the shanked bit, um, you know, heavier hands, surely, leverage bit.
yep,
They all see that as violence, whereas I view those as all as tools and training and
that's
teaching equipment.
yeah,
So it's a difference of worldview, and you're not going to. I guarantee you're not going to uh, change this lady's opinion on
yeah,
that. Like you're not going to change her worldview, and I'm not going to pull her up on screen to
yeah.
do anything. It's not
No
worth
need,
that.
no. But I think that number one, I'll say this is that I think that people in general need to look at the pictures that they're posting of themselves riding and things like that, and just kind of consider what is the average person going to see and going to think if I post this picture right now. Like it's cool. Like I had a pretty good bronc ride today on a colt that I was riding, and man, it was the husband of the lady I was riding for. He got some really good pictures, and of course, I sent those to all my friends on Snapchat tonight. And oh man, that's a heck of a bronc ride, whatever. And but I also realized I'm like I can't go and put those on Facebook because they're just going to eat me alive. I post 99% of the time I post positive stuff and about softness and this and that. But if I go put one bronc ride picture up there, they're just going to eat me up. And I've just learned that given my position and what I do and stuff like that, I have to think about the most uneducated person clicking on my page and what they're going to think, because that's going to affect my business and my bottom line at the end of the day. So I've kind of learned to navigate that. And I think more people need to kind of take that responsibility and say, like, if someone clicked on my page and this was the only picture they saw, how is this going to make my horsemanship look? And not only my horsemanship, but the sport that I compete in. How is it going to make it look? Because picture is it is just a second captured in time. And that horse may have opened his mouth for whatever reason, but if you catch that picture with that gapped open mouth, everybody's going to think you're ripping that horse's face off. And sometimes they just gap their mouth. Sometimes it's just what it is. But
Yeah.
I think that there's a responsibility. If we want people like this to back off, and if we don't want to see rodeo and horse racing and horse jumping and all the other things, if we don't want to see that become something that's outlawed in this country, I think everybody that participates needs to be a little more conscientious about the fact that this isn't just for your friends to see. Everybody sees these pictures. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's funny. Like, so like I went to school at Colorado State University, and, Temple Grandin's kind of like she's kind of a staple there at CSU. And there's a lot of cowmen that don't really care for Temple Grandin. They think she's got her own ways, or they don't agree with her on a lot. And I think, like, there's a lot of, particularly like her facility design, that I think is just, it's not that I disagree with her. I think it's just overkill. And
right. I think the points are good, but maybe not the whole thing.
I think Bud Williams was a lot better on the design, but I think Temple Grandin did about 1,000 times more in spreading the knowledge of low stress animal handling than Bud Williams Bud Williams ever could. Just for whatever reason, like people.
She has a good story. Her life story is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
She overcame a lot, and listen, I give her all due credit there. That lady is, a lot of other people would have ended up not making much of an impact on the world, and they would have let the things that they struggled with kind of hold them back. But hell, she got her word out there to the point where there's movies about her and books and everything else. And I say good on her. But I agree with you. I think there's better low stress stockmen out there, but hers caught the spotlight.
Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's kind of like the deal, like the Yellowstone phenomenon. Like, it's not the best thing, but it's not the worst thing. Like, it made cowboys look cool again. And like that,
I mean,
that's not.
Same with Dale Brisby, for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people give Dale crap, but you know what? There are so many kids in cities and towns that have no exposure to cowboys, that they watch his show on Netflix and now they're just ate up with cowboy culture. And I think he's kind of got, Yellowstone, Dale, people like that are a gateway to helping to keep, the tradition and the legacy alive, the culture.
Yeah, it's true. And I've talked trash on Brisby many a time, and I probably will at some point too. But I like, mostly it's just like, you never met a hater doing better than yourself, and Dale Brisby's doing a lot better than me as far as the numbers go. So I'll admit it. I'm a hater. He found his niche, and good on him. Like, some of his stuff is really, really funny.
Kind of genius. It's kind of genius when you look at, he started making prank phone calls and dressing up to entertain his friends, and he's built literally a multi-million-dollar empire out of it.
Yeah, and he's got to play that character the whole time, which is, I guess if that's what pays your bills, have at it. It's I mean, same thing happened with Larry the Cable Guy.
Yeah.
That was just a character he used to call into a radio show, and that became his whole deal.
It's really no different than a lot of rock stars and like even some of these rappers. Like, you look at some of these rappers from the 90s and early 2000s, like Ice Cube or Ice-T, for that matter. These guys were, they were fuck the police and this and that. and now Ice Cube is playing a cop on Law and Order. So like
Yeah.
a lot of it was, that was the persona, that the public persona that they sold. But the reality is they're just businessmen. They're just trying to capitalize on different trends and things like that. And all those guys, all the ones that are still in the game, they've all just adapted to the changing times. And I respect it. I respect the hustle anyway.
Yeah. No, it's and if it's funny, it's funny. Like his
That's right.
his old rancher bit's always pretty funny.
Oh,
His like his early the early stuff he first started putting on YouTube was really, really funny. And yeah, I didn't care for the show so much, but that's all right. There's plenty of people that did, and like more power to them.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. But I think the industry needs stuff like that, where guys like you and I that are in it and have been in it, we may not relate to that, but it's a good gateway. Those type of things are a good gateway for people, that the uninitiated, that are kind of seeking out, like, hey, what's it take to be a cowboy, or I want to learn about rough stock or whatever. And that's a really easy way for people to get involved. And I think there's an importance to that.
Yeah, I view it a lot like with the veterans and war movies. Like, if fucking Hurt Locker wins an Academy Award, and you talk to any of the Iraq and Afghan sure enough combat vets, they're like, that is the biggest piece of shit movie ever made.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's not at all realistic, and that was kind of like when I think it was one of the opening scenes of Yellowstone, where they pull a calf on the side of the road.
And it runs away immediately.
Yeah, and like everybody that has went through one single calving season is just like, holy shit, that's you couldn't have consulted somebody on that.
That's right.
And but if anybody that doesn't know anything about cattle would have never noticed anything about it. It's always we nitpick it because we do this shit for a living.
I get in these little petty arguments all the time with people, because they're like, "Oh, screw Yellowstone! That's fake. It's fake." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's literally a show packed with drama and all the stuff. It's modern Dallas, the show Dallas." And I said, but at the end of the day, they're not catering to the 1% of us who actually know. They're catering to all the people who don't know, and they want to get the point across that the calf came out and it was healthy, so. What better way to show the general public that than it jumped up and ran away? You know what I mean? And so people kind of forget that. Like, they're not making that shit for us. They're making it for the masses.
It's funny. I had my buddy Aaron that I do fence post politics with. Him and his family came out over the 4th of July, and they came out to the feedlot on the 4th. I had to go in and work in the morning, and we had this Hereford bull that was pretty sick. I had to run him through the chute, and his boys got to they got to see it up close and explain the whole process of how you take their temperature, all that. What I was looking at, show him that he was sick. He ended up temping like a 7.2 or something like that. He was hot. Give him a shot of Draxon, and away we went. And my buddy was telling me the other day, like, when they're doing their nighttime prayers, they still pray for the bull to get better. And I was like, and it was, that would have never even crossed my mind that it made that big of an impression on him. Yeah. But like, here we are, and this was a couple weeks ago in September, I guess, and they're still concerned about that bull. And so it's funny. Like, yeah, we wouldn't ever thought much about it, but for those kids that ain't been around it, it made a huge impression on them.
That's the thing. And that can be a turning point for a lot of those kids. When they wow, something that interests me. I never knew it was even something that could interest me.
Yeah, and but then I was like, well, yeah, full recovery. That bull is just fine. He looked like shit for about 2 days, and then he come around, and now he's and so and it's a good lesson for them to to learn. Like, hey, we give him a shot of this medicine, which a lot of people will say is bad. And
Yep.
there is an argument that overuse of it is really bad, but also it works. This deal works because he's better now.
Yep. That's the thing. It's like, well, there's bad, and then there's like, well, you can not give it, and it could just die.
Mm-hmm.
So prolonging life is kind of a good thing. So maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
not good long term, but if that bull can live out longer and do his job and breed more cows and all the things, and then maybe it's not such a bad thing. Bad
right.
is relative, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then and if it's not little kids that you're talking to, but you're talking to other people, you can also explain, like, all right, so let's say I don't treat that bull and he dies. Well, the guy that sent us those bulls, he was expecting to sell that guy.
Yep.
And for a pretty good price, because these are nice Hereford bulls. And well, now
that hurts his family.
And also, he like maybe these guys were kind of sleeping on me, and I could have saved that bull, and maybe I won't. I'll send them somewhere else next year. And
exactly.
So the better job we do keeping these animals alive, it justifies us having a job. It makes that guy want to bring his animals back next year because he doesn't have to worry about doing the work himself. He's like, hey, these guys will do a good job.
That's right.
So it just it's a whole cycle. But I wanted to. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna ask your opinion on this video. So go finish your thought, and then we'll go to this video here.
Yeah, no. All I was going to add to that is that it's a lot similar to my line of work. Besides starting a lot of colts, and I do a bunch of them. I get a lot of problem horses, especially from the hunter jumper and dressage world. So I get these big fancy warm bloods that have come out of Europe. They've been imported over here. They develop some kind of bad habit, bucking, rearing, just different things. It doesn't really matter what it is, but a lot of time these horses were allowed to be that way for a certain amount of time. They come to me and it's like, well, you got like 60 days to fix that. And, for me, for some of these horses, I'm the last step before they end up in a hole or in Mexico or something. And, and so, it's like that old saying, and this goes to what you're doing as well. Everybody wants to eat the sausage, but nobody really wants to see how it's made.
Mm-hmm.
And so fixing some of these problem horses, it's like if this horse has been allowed to be whatever way, rearing, bucking, running off, whatever it is, and they skirted that and they put Band-Aids on it and they covered it up for years, and now I have him for 60 days and I've got to make a change in that horse, and I've got to make it so that he doesn't hurt somebody when he leaves me, because I don't want that on my conscience. He's got to be in a way so that he doesn't hurt himself. And so sometimes it takes getting a little bit closer to the edge than most other people would what they're willing to do. And for me, it's like if I can save this horse by laying him down or doing this or doing that, and where other people would shy away from some of those things, and it's in fairness and it's not in hate, it's not in anger or anything like that. But a lot of people, if you took a snapshot of that moment and said, well, here's him laying down, that horse is kind of fighting, laying down, or whatever it might be, people, oh, that's terrible, it's this and that. But then when that horse is fixed and he's going around the show ring and packing somebody's kid, and you're like, hey, I fixed that one. People all want to celebrate that, but at the same time, they want to point the fingers at you when you're treating it and you're fixing it. And that's one of the problematic things, I think, of the world that we live in. Especially on the liberal side of things. I hate to pick on them, but it's kind of true, is that, they're like, oh, you got to be nice to him. You got to love him. You got to do this. You got to do that. But I'm like, I know that this horse will flip over on top of somebody, and I need to do anything I can to make this horse stop, because if he doesn't stop, he's either going to kill somebody or he's going to end up shipped off to Mexico or something. So the best thing for both parties is that I'm as tough as I need to be to help that horse through there and help him find a way. Not everybody's going to love what it takes to get there, but they're all going to love the finished product. And
right.
That's kind of the world we live in, I think. So anyhow, go on with what you were saying. I digress.
Yeah, it's kind of the classical story where the son, has to, bows up to his dad And at some point there has to be a reckoning, and the old man whips his ass, and then there's a mutual understanding.
Spot on, man.
It's kind of how it goes. And
That's right.
But anyway, I wish we had like the full video of this, because I'd like to see what this horse looked like leading up to this point. But
Yep. I'll tell you exactly what happened there.
So what was this? The question was pushing them above their limit.
Well, watch when the horse stopped. If you back that up, and we just watch the horse stop before he ever backs up. When that horse stops, his hind feet.
You want to take a nap?
I'm taking a nap here.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
You
he
wanna take a-
stops there, his hind feet. He's got sliding plates on. That's standard. But he got so deep underneath himself. If the rider had just kind of hesitated a moment going into that, I mean a moment, like a second, and let that horse get his feet a little bit better under him, everything would have been fine. That horse would have never laid down. But he just got that hind end so deep, and as soon as that horse wasn't even done stopping, and he started to ask that horse to come back. And as that horse came back, his hind feet were just so far under him. The more he backed, the more he got back over his hocks until he had nowhere to go but to lay down. And that's a whole lot better than that horse flipping over, which he could have done. But my take on it is that he just got really, really deep. He got his feet, he didn't I refer to it as resetting the feet. So like it's kind of like if you spin a horse around and he stops and he's kind of splay footed from when he stopped, he's not in any position to leave from there. So you got to let him get his feet back, and then you can leave. You can lope out. You can do whatever. But I think that it was just a matter of the horse got his feet in the wrong spot, and they asked him to back up, and the horse tried to, and he got stuck, and he just said, well, I can't go there, so I'm just going to lay down.
It's like when a bigger fella gets to moving too quick and they get a little top heavy,
Exactly.
And you can see.
You're froze up, buddy. There you are.
There we are.
It's like a big guy that gets to moving.
Yeah, they get a little top heavy, and they just start leaning a little bit more, and then down they go.
Yep.
Except, and then this way it's the ass end.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like driving across an icy bridge. You lose your ass end.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's one of those things that, it's like anything in any sport you have. It doesn't matter what the sport is. Any sport you have, whether it's human athletes or animal athletes, you're going to have wrecks. It's going to happen. Humans are going to blow a knee. They're going to break a leg. They're going to slip. They're going to fall. And, okay, you have a moment like this, and this horse just got deep. He was sitting too far down on his butt. That's why his hind end went out from under him first. I mean, he gets up. He's not that horse is not rattled. He's not strung out. There's nothing about that horse's body language says he's all that upset about it. He just sat down. He literally stopped so deep. His hocks were in the dirt, and he had nowhere to go.
Yeah, and then he kind of looked embarrassed while he was laying there.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like when you see it the first time, and you're like, oh shit, that something. My first thought was like, that something go out on his ass end, just give out or what?
Yep.
And then then you watch it back. You watch it back and like, oh yeah,
yep.
Yeah, just lost your ass end.
I said this earlier today, and it occurs in this group a lot. I wish I could have the same confidence that an uneducated, an uneducated, ignorant person has when they spout off opinions that have literally no backing, no factual backing whatsoever. They just write some tagline, and they do it in utter confidence. And it's like, you look at this and I'm like, I wish I could be that confident in my whole day-to-day life. Like, you see so much of it. It's like they have no idea what they're even looking at there.
Yeah, and some of the comments as a drugged, I'd bet. This horse is probably 13 to 14 hands, and the guy is too big for it. And not to mention that all that tack adds to the weight. No wonder it fell.
Yeah.
No, that horse was fine. Like that was probably closer to a 15 hand horse, and I mean he wasn't tall, but that horse was built pretty nice. Let's see. More like horse was back in the speed, like the pattern. Okay, and the back legs got too far under the horse to recover. There you go. Cruel. Oh, this is a dude. Obviously, that horse is not well and exhausted.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just a lot of ignorance, and I don't say ignorance as a bad thing. I just truly ignorant. They don't know any better. I think equestrianism is an activity that requires focus and patience, as well as a graceful and challenging sport.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's a.
But it's funny that so many people don't just say, "Oh, it looks like he took a misstep." I mean, that's literally it's kind of like tripping going forward, but he just had his feet in the wrong spot trying to back up and he got stuck. Like it's literally that simple, but nobody wants to go for the simple obvious. They want to create an entire backstory. Now the horse is drugged, he's undersized, he's all these things, and such as the lynch mob mentality of the internet is that people always want to go to the worst case scenario, and it's not often that.
I'm back.
You're back.
Internet. Elon, what's the deal, man?
They're listening in. They don't like what we're saying.
But anyway, we're.
Are you there?
I don't know what may. I'll scroll through this and see if there's anything else that is worth looking into. But no, why are people so stupid? This horse is kicking out because it's genuinely not trusting. The last thing you want to do is give it more reason not to trust you. This is an example of a horse poorly prepared, trapped in a round pen, showing so many signs of stress and fear that she completely missed. And then the chases the horse around because it kicks out. And then she steps. It's a stream of consciousness. We'll watch this video and see what.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Hopefully my computer can handle it. Help me, Elon. We need your Starlink.
I know. We've been seeing it pass over our place quite a bit lately. It's kind of interesting.
All right. The 2-year-old, as she says.
Yep.
I don't know what that chick's mad about.
I don't know either. This looks actually pretty good.
Yeah. That's
she got grabby, but she's getting started. I mean, it's going to happen.
She was prepared for it too. I mean,
yeah, and she didn't do anything vindictive or any retribution. She just went back to what she was doing. I mean, looks pretty good.
And then yeah, the second time around.
Yep. Like there, that horse pulled its foot, and she did the right thing. She said, well, if you don't want to stand there and give me your foot, you can move your feet around the pen here. And that comes right down to the whole principle of make the right thing easy, make the wrong thing difficult. You could stand here, hang out, and let me look at your foot, or you could do a few more laps around the pen. It's your choice. And I heard something the other day, and I realized it's kind of one of the principles of horsemanship is most people spend so much time trying to tell the horse where to be instead of telling the horse where not to be. And so the outside of that pen, running around in that pen there, that's where he doesn't need to be. He needs to be over that log. But if you try to force him to stand at that log, you're gonna have a fight. But if you show him all the places he shouldn't be, and you let him come to that log, that's where that horse is gonna hunt. He's gonna hunt the right answer then. And I think the girl did a pretty good job.
Yeah, so this was like Rockin' Regan or something on TikTok. I thought I saw nothing wrong. First of all, that's a pretty gentle colt.
Yeah.
And that's seems like a gal that knows what she's doing a little bit. I mean,
I'd hire her.
Yeah, I got no problem with anything here. And yeah, like she didn't smack him on the ass, which is what I would have done.
No, yeah, send him.
If he's gonna pull away like that, I would have not mean, just pop him on the ass and get going, and then we'll try it again. But she just kind of shoot him away, and her against the filly. But I got no issue with that video at all.
Yes, sir. I agree.
And especially like the second time around, that colt's he's like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a big long. Why are people so stupid? The horse kicking out because it's a colt. It's young, 2-year-old.
Yeah, they're gonna take their feet. They're gonna do what they think they need to do in that situation until we show them otherwise, and that's part of the beauty of developing a young one.
Yeah, that's why you work with their feet. You just keep working.
Got to start
keep
somewhere.
Working because yeah.
I mean, if it were me, I'd rope a hind foot off my saddle horse and let my saddle horse help figure it out. But that's just me.
If you don't work with their feet, you end up on a Facebook rant from Derek Mott. Yes. About why he charges extra to shoe your horses.
Yes, sir. That's exactly it.
I always like when Derek gets on one. He's got a way of putting things. It's this Becca chick, like I'm not seeing a bunch of her posts. Here we go. Just when you think it can't get any worse, who would defend this? And so it's a horse with it looks like a dog chain halter.
Yeah, they just connected, some stud chains off and like one of the mole leather lead ropes and the halter out of it. Horse probably pulls back bad. Now, for me, I'd probably teach that horse not to pull back rather than just getting a stouter halter. But truth of it is, if the horse ain't pulling on it, that halter doesn't. It's no different than anything else on his head.
It's not cruel if it's not affecting him. I mean, if he sits back, it's gonna cinch down for sure, and then it's gonna be a little ouchy.
Right.
And I mean, it's one way to do it. I prefer, looping a lariat rope over their withers and get the Honda coming up between their chest and
through the halter
and tie
rail. Yep.
Yeah, and tie your lariat shorter than your lead rope.
That's right.
And once that Honda pinches their titty meat, they jump up pretty quick.
Yeah. And that works, and that's effective. But it's like anything though. Like, I mean, that method, a lot of things in the wrong hands, it can be terrible. In the right hands, with someone a little common sense and a little horse sense, you can use it really effectively.
Right. And then like that lariat deal, that's only on a horse that pulls back. Like I don't do it to every horse. The first couple of times I tie him, all I do is loop the lead rope around twice, and then and then sack him out.
Yeah.
And that way they can slide. They give, my dad would tie them up to an inner tube, and same thing. It's just they can pull back all they want, and then they get pulled right back to a standing position.
That's it.
And it's not meant to be an every time thing. These tools are meant to correct a problem, and then they get put to the side.
That's right.
And yeah, I don't know that somebody might have just not had somebody stole their last damn halter, so they had to make one.
Yeah, that's a hard thing with a picture. You never know the story behind it.
Yeah. And yeah, so the caption is curious what the Karens have to say about this, and so like I said, are they just, was it something on the fly because they couldn't find one of the regular halters, or was it this made for for one that pulls back and it's a training device? I don't know. That's hard telling. What's the context?
The things I see looking at that is I don't see a whole lot of scuffed up hair on the bridge of his nose. I don't see any marks up by his poll. His jaw isn't raw and bloody, so it kind of tells me that particular horse hasn't been fighting that halter. He's not been in a storm with it, because there would definitely be some marks and some telltale signs there. So, I mean, is that any different than everybody loves these mule tape halters? Some of them are they're pretty thin. They got quite a bit of bite to them. They definitely won't break. You can tow a Mack truck with them. But, they're made, the whole point and purpose in them is that they will not break, and your horse can pull on it all day and it's not going to break. And so is that rig there really that much different, beside the fact that it's chain? And I'll say this for chain, rope that gets pulled tight and narrow and thin, a rope is gonna dig in a whole lot more than a flat chain against the side of their face. And but people see chain and they immediately that's cruel. But the truth of it is that I've seen more damage done on horses. I've seen a lot of damage from a thin rope halter. I mean, getting right down into meat because that horse was fighting it so badly.
So this first comment is quite awesome. The sorrow in his eyes. Imagine what he goes through every day. That's just a glimpse.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Looks like a horse. He looks pretty bored.
Yeah.
Not a particularly photogenic horse.
No.
He looks a little sleepy. I wouldn't say sorrowful.
No.
Yeah, it's, and there's a lot of these people that just don't need to own horses, but this. All right, so the Becca chick, she more often than not will just post something wanting to be mad about. It's always wanting to be mad about something. They got all these rules and things to keep everything friendly, but yet her posts are always of have you seen what they did here? It's just full Karen energy.
Yes.
And so you're just at the end of the day, I don't think it's about the horses at all. It's about you being pissed off and having a place for people to validate your emotion.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And this one, here, and everybody's praising this. Well, roping on grass, probably a little slick.
He slipped.
Yeah. That's
might have ought to put some caulks or some borium or something on your feet there, but I mean, again, athletes slip, they fall, they have moments where it's like, hey, I didn't count on this today, but this is what happened.
Yeah, it's I don't know, and sometimes when it's that slick, it's that slick. It don't matter what the hell you have on their feet. It's just that slick.
Here's the funny part, though, is that they all want to go after show horses and rodeo horses because Well, because there's always a cameraman at those events, and of course, any cameraman is going to photograph the wrecks because that's what people love, seeing a good wreck. Whether it's NASCAR or rodeo, people love a wreck. Truth of it is, though, in my life, right now, I've got some friends that are diehard trail riders, and I'm talking like get liquored up and get on your horse and ride for 6 hours through the hills through some pretty ungodly terrain. I have seen more ugly wrecks from trail riders, which are kind of celebrated on these pages.
Yeah.
But I have seen some horrendous wrecks because the average trail rider has usually never worked off of a horse. Most of them have never truly trained a horse. The majority of them really only know, riding down a trail, having a cocktail, and that sort of thing. So a lot of them get themselves in some pretty bad situations. And it just happens that most people aren't videoing or photographing that. But, the same people that are on here that are, I'm a trail rider and I teach my horse with nonviolence, this and that. But they're the same ones that are riding across a boggy spot because they didn't think enough to check the ground and burying their horse to his withers, or rolling their horse off the side of a steep hill because they weren't balanced and they got scared.
Well, and they're hard to balance anyways because they're usually pretty round shaped.
Exactly. Built for rolling, not for riding.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like trying to keep your saddle in the middle of a barrel shaped horse after they've been on grass for 6 months.
That's right.
Yeah, it's fun, particularly this Becca chick. Like I said, she's kind of shaped like a penguin.
Yeah.
She's got a very Danny DeVito type physique.
Yeah, I can't help but think of the Mr. Potato Head dolls we had when we were kids.
Yeah. Yeah, she's kind of got the same attitude as Mrs. Potato Head on Toy Story.
A lumpy body, a bad attitude, and legs.
Yeah, it's that's the thing with a lot of the trail ride community too, is like they'll put their horses in some bad spots and then they're too damn fat to get themselves out of it too.
Yeah.
And so then it just ends up you end up crashing and burning. And I don't know, like I'm not the picture of physical fitness, but I gotta stay somewhat in shape just in order to do the job. I'm working on getting better at it, but it's you can't get too fat and be effective as a horse trainer, working cowboy.
Oh yeah, and just because someone is a professional at something doesn't mean that people don't make mistakes. Sometimes you misjudge the ground, sometimes you misjudge where your horse's feet are under you, and accidents happen. And I just feel like some of these groups are just so quick they're like a bunch of coyotes and buzzards circling, just waiting for someone to make a mistake. And instead of saying, I'm glad you're okay and I'm glad your horse is okay, and it's too bad that, he slipped or you slipped or whatever it was, people are so quick to go for the throat. There's a little bit of blood in the water.
Oh, yeah. Well, and so this particular picture, I mean, you get conditions like that with a little, the small rain on the feedlot all the time. There's a lot of people who just be like, trust your horse. He'll get you the right. Like, not every horse. Some of them motherfuckers, I will tell them where to walk. And I'll tell them how fast to walk.
Yep.
I'll tell them because they particularly like the hot-headed, real cowy types, like they get worked up so quick and they lose common sense.
Yes, they do.
They're working the cow and they don't pay attention to the rest of the surroundings.
Yeah, and there's also a massive difference between horses that were raised outside and pen-raised horses. Some that was born and didn't really interact with a lot of other horses growing up, grew up in a small pen somewhere or stall, and while they might be good in the arena, a lot of them horses on any kind of uneven ground, they don't know what to do with their feet.
Yeah.
It's like taking a town-raised kid that's only played video games his whole life and dropping him off on a ranch and expecting him to stay healthy, he's probably going to mess up and hurt himself because, well, he wasn't raised around that kind of atmosphere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like me growing up on the plains, and when I was around the mountains were always to the west, because if you grew up eastern Colorado, that's how you knew the directions. Mountains were west.
Yes.
Then I got up into Montana, and I was in this little valley where there are mountains everywhere, and I couldn't tell you which way was up.
Yes.
Like I was a flatlander. I just I don't have a fucking clue which direction I'm going right now. But and then the guys that grew up around there, they could tell you real easy. Yeah. But you take them out to eastern Colorado, and they have no landmarks to go off of, and if they couldn't tell you either. Like, what, I don't know where we're at.
Yeah.
And it's it's a whole different. Horses really are the closest animal to humans that I, as far as like personality wise goes.
Oh, yeah.
Like everyone's a little bit different, and there's, the bloodlines, it helps. It's a good predictor, but there's still quirks. Every horse has their little quirks.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I said that to someone today. I said, training horses, the way I look at it, every horse is an experiment because every horse is a little bit different. And I'm going to look at the tools in my toolbox, and I'm going to pick which tools to use, but it's an experiment. I'm hoping that will work. I have enough knowledge behind me that I'm pretty sure it will work, but sometimes you don't make the right choice, and you got to go back to the drawing board and try something else. But I think that's what keeps me interested is every horse is a case by case study,
Yeah. Well, and it's funny when you talk to some of the really top, well respected horsemen, trainers, whatever. Like Scott Hall's one who I hold in pretty high esteem.
Yep.
As far as horsemanship, and he's like, man, I ruined so many horses before I ever figured out what I was doing.
Me too, man. And
it's just like, man, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, you have to realize that they are an animal and they're not a human, so like they tend to be kind of disposable, and that's, I mean, some people may not like that, but that's just kind of the way of the world. And
it is.
I don't shy.
Like it or not.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a good thing or bad thing. It's a thing.
That's right.
and
right.
That's just how it is.
Yeah.
And so but there's these people like this Nonviolent Equestrians group that they live in Disney World and not reality.
Absolutely.
Like they're in their world, all the animals talk and get along together. Yeah. And they would probably view all the videos on Nature is Metal as a hate crime. Because when you actually see nature, it's
nature's pretty brutal, man.
Yeah, that's a great name to the account. Nature's pretty fucking metal, man. It really is.
Yeah.
There was they had a video on there the other day. It was this whale was out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the death belch, and the methane finally built up enough to where it just expelled the entire innards out.
Wow.
Out through the blowhole. It was gnarly. Like that was a lot of stomach.
I know what Google deep dive I'm taking tonight.
Yeah, it's on. I was on their Instagram page. It was wild.
That's wild.
But yeah, man, this has been fun. And if that gal that commented the other day, if she happens to listen to this, we probably still didn't go too much enough into how much of a fraud this Becca is.
Yeah.
I don't know much about her, and I don't think she has any real influence in the world. Like
I wish we could get her on here and have a little debate.
I would love to. I mean, I don't think she'd do it,
I don't
but
think she would.
it would be, it'd be interesting.
Yep.
But like, I don't know. It's just, she's a fundamentalist.
Yeah.
But she's like the fundamentalist leaders that, they're always preaching this cause, but it's always the real stories about them. And I think she just likes the drama.
The hard part for me, and that's what sent me over the edge, was the level of hypocrisy. Like when you're screaming at everybody about their saddle fit and what they're doing to their horse, and then you post a picture of yourself perched precariously up there on a $250, India
A Beta saddle
that doesn't fit your poor horse, and the horse has just got a look on his face. You could tell he's just pissed off at the world, and you're smiling from ear to ear, looking like Shrek's sister up there, and that's the part that's what got my goat and kind of tipped me over the edge.
Yeah, it's one thing, like I had that Jake Zilke was talking, the guy that wrote Lost Cowboy. He was talking about when he was down in South Africa, and they had like plastic saddles, and they just used what they could.
Yeah.
And there's one thing to that. Like, it's not an ideal, but those guys were actually horsemen.
Do the best you can with what you got.
And I don't know what this lady's financial situation is, but she is sure quick to criticize without. Like, if I was criticizing that hard, I wouldn't be posting pictures of my shitty ass saddle like that.
When I was a kid, when I was younger anyway, I used to be a lot more critical of other trainers, and I'd be looking for, things to criticize because it made me feel smart, I guess. And I had someone say to me once, they said, I try not to criticize the techniques of other rat catchers when they've caught a lot more rats than I ever have. And man, I look at some of these guys out there, and I may not agree with everything they do, but man, they're catching more rats or more buckles than I'll ever catch. So,
right. And when cowboys, like most of your cowboys are pretty poor for the most part. They're not. So like you learn how to judge a saddle because you probably can't afford the one that you really want.
Right.
And you find out that different size pads are a lot cheaper than buying a new saddle. And if it ain't absolutely soring your horse to death, like you can experiment with some shit to make it fit a little bit better and get by. It's not great idea, but you make do with what you got.
Well, what makes me laugh about all of this is that the majority of good hands that I rode around, those guys may have been flat broke, but they were riding a custom saddle that cost at least 2 months' wages. It may have been used, it may have been worn, but sure enough, it was a custom and it fit real good. They were, they had a custom, hand-built bit in that horse's mouth that was literally made to fit a horse, and it wasn't made in a factory. There's no defects to it. It's made about perfect. They're riding, every bit of gear they have down to their boots is custom. Even though they can't afford it, they find a way. They trade for it. They work side jobs, do whatever. And that quality and it's not just about showing off. It's about, hey, I don't want my horse to be sore. I want to be able to. I don't want to cripple this sucker because I rely on him to make a living. So I'm going to give this horse the best gear I can give him. Most of those people will never understand that while they're screaming about this and that, most of these broke-ass cowboys are riding more quality-fitting stuff than the majority of people out there. And that's just something that kind of gets me.
Yeah, like they, on the flip side, they'll have like 4 or 5 different cheap saddles that all fit different. So you can throw, you can fit your horse accordingly, and it's but like any guy that's been around for a while, like get somebody new starting, like if they actually think you're worth a shit at all, they'll be like, hey, get rid of this and like they'll usually like give you a little hand me down here. Why don't you try this bit? Why don't you try this pad? And then, and if they're real good, if they're really wanting to teach you something, they'll tell you what this, why it does this, why this is better than what you have, and what to look for next time. Like when you get a chance, save up and try this. Try to find you one of these, or and it's or they'll be like, hey, try some of these saddles. They're they might be factory made, but they're a lot better. They're still pretty good quality.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to go spend $6,000 on a custom.
100%.
Build up to that. But in the meantime, like stay away from these. Try these. And most of all, like keep a bunch of different types of pads around, because like I said, you can do a lot with just changing your pad situation.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. If I've got a pair of boots that's a little bit big and I put on a thicker wool sock, that boot's not going to sore me, and it's going to make me feel pretty comfortable all day. Same goes for a boot that's a little bit tighter. I might put a thinner sock on, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It's like when you get all the shitty horses to start with, you learn how to ride shitty horses, so that when you actually get to ride a good horse, you appreciate it more, and you by that point you probably learned enough to where you can make that good horse even a little bit better from a few tricks you learned on pukes.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's I don't know. You always learn something new. It's
oh hell yeah, man.
It's a fun way of life. Not always the easiest, but it sure is fun. What do you got going up in the future? I don't want to keep you too awful late.
Like I said, I'm a night owl. I'm enjoying this, so you keep me as long as you want to here.
All right, cool.
But I've got some clinics coming up. I got a 3-day clinic coming next week up in New Jersey, so that'll be nice time. And just getting ready to make our yearly migration down to Ocala, Florida. And I always look forward to that, because that's where I feel like I kind of have a sense of community down there. All my good friends are there, and it's such a horse-centric town. If you've never been there, you can't even imagine the scope of what that town is like. As far as if you remotely like horses, there's something for everybody there. It's pretty neat. And so I kind of save up my partying and fun stuff for going down there, because it's just every night, when you've got all these friends and no one's from there, everybody's from somewhere else. So, there's always a barbecue, there's going out to dinner, there's having drinks, there's doing this, doing that. And when I'm up here, man, I just kind of stay at our place and ride my horses, go do some clinics and stuff, and kind of hide out here. And so I'm excited about that. That's going to be really good. And my girlfriend and I are just, it's kind of like moving a circus, because she's a trainer, I'm a trainer. So we both have training horses. We both have personal horses. We've got a couple interns. We've got 3 or 4 staff members. And we move all of it down, plus a whole passel of dogs and whatnot. So it's something, but that's coming up. So that's kind of going to take the forefront. Tomorrow we're going to start organizing and getting everything kind of lined up for what needs to go down and what can stay here. And I do have next week. This is kind of cool. I've got Brett Davis coming to town next week. He's coming in. We're doing a 3-day colt starting and horsemanship clinic together here. And man, it's gonna be something special. I think I'm actually really excited about it, because for me it's nice. Brett's somebody that not only do I call him one of my closest friends, but he's a genius with horses, and he's just got a really good way of presenting it and teaching. And so to be able to do that together, that's been a long time in the making for the two of us, as far as our friendship's pretty old. And, so that's going to be great. We've got a lot of friends coming from all over the country just to be there for the weekend. So I'm excited about that, man. We're going to get a little Western here in Maryland.
That's awesome. I need to run into him. He's just over at Fallon, so I'm not far away from him, but I need to get I keep thinking I need to, and I just haven't done it yet.
They just got their own place over there. They're getting all set up, and I'm excited.
Hell yeah.
He's really his arc this past year or two has been really neat. He's done, his wife is, I would say Amy's the brains behind it. Amy's done a really good job of building a video library, and I mean, there's a lot of good information on there and a lot of fun too. Brett tells a lot of good stories and stuff like that. His stories from South America are pretty great, but they've done a really good job of putting that out there and giving people something real and authentic to kind of follow. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I'll have to look into some of that. He's an interesting guy.
He sure is. He sure.
It's yeah, it's fun being around somebody who like really truly knows what they're talking about. Like just like I don't know, there's whatever the like that subject may be.
Yeah.
With Brett, it's horses, but like there's certain people that just I like listening to hear them talk because you like they know everything about a certain subject and just like
Yep.
It's
I'll tell you this quick if we got the time. I'll make.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of time.
But the way I met Brett, I don't know if I ever told you about that, but it was pretty funny. I was working for Craig Cameron back in I think like 2007 or 8, and we were at a big horse expo deal in Oklahoma, and Craig had to go somewhere that night, and I kind of had nowhere to be. So Craig said, "Hey, this kid used to work for me. He was at the expo today. Why don't you go with him? He's going out somewhere tonight." And I was like, "I'm always game, I said, "All right, I'll load up." So I get in with this kid. We drive about 2 hours out into the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. On the way, we pick up these two guys that the best way I could describe how they looked was to say white supremacist chic. That was about how they dressed. And these two guys, they load up in the single cab of this old Chevy pickup. So it's the four of us crammed in this pickup, which is kind of awkward already. But now these two guys kind of want to fight me in the cab of the pickup. They're going, "Who's this? You didn't tell me you were bringing anyone." And I'm like, "Man, I'm probably going to die here tonight." So fast forward, we drive out even further out into the country. We leave the trailer park we pick them boys up at, and we get to what looks like an old chicken house, like an old school chicken house, just a block building in the middle of nowhere. But there's a reinforced pen full of wild hogs, and there's a couple fellers out back, and they're skinning and dressing out this one of the wild hogs. And we go on inside, and it's the four of us, and then we are the only white faces in this bar, except for these two guys that sitting at one end of the bar by this little TV. There was an older fella in a cowboy hat. There was this skinny, wiry fella in a white shirt and a red beret. And I'm like, whatever. I didn't think much of that, but they were literally selling crack openly in this bar. This was by far one of the worst places I've ever been in my life. And I was pretty young and green then too, so I was like, man, this is pretty wild. And
did you buy any crack?
I didn't buy any crack. And
man,
I kind of felt like I missed my opportunity, but
See, I feel like I would have had that same exact thing. I wouldn't have bought it and then kicked myself later for.
It would have made the story a little bit better. So anyhow, I'm in there, and the night progressively starts to get worse because these boys they're smoking crack and they're doing a lot of things, and I have no way to get home. I don't even know where I am. I didn't have a GPS phone. I didn't have anything, so I am literally at the mercy of these boys I'm there with, and they started getting weird toward me because I wasn't doing any of the drugs they were doing, and they started to call me a cop, which is never a good thing in a crowded bar of crackheads to be called.
No, I would imagine not.
Deal. So I slide down the bar toward the two fellers down there. They seemed all right, and I introduced myself. This one dude the guy in the beret whips out a card, and it says, "Have saddle, will travel, Brett Davis." That's all it said on it, and his phone number. Gives me the card.
And he's wearing a beret?
He's wearing a beret. I guess he had come back from South America not too long before that. And,
okay.
And he had adopted the beret as part of his go-to-town wear. And so anyhow, I sat there talking with this guy, and we figured out, he goes, "Yeah, I came in here, this is the only TV nearby, and I came in here to watch." The NFR was on, and he said, "I'm watching a buddy from home, Zach Oakes." And I said, "By God, I know Zach Oakes. I'm good friends with his brother Joe." And he goes, I'll be damned. We get to talking and we're, shooting the shit as cowboys will do. And where'd you work? I worked here, whatever. And he says, man, you going to be all right in there? I said, I don't know. I said, how are you all right? He pulls back his shirt and he's got a big old hog leg tucked down the front of his pants. He goes, they know I'm packing this and nobody's going to bother me. And I said, well, I'm going to sit here with you boys. So I sat there with them for the night. And Brett literally helped get me out and get me into the truck because things started to get pretty ugly for me. Other people started calling me a cop and this and that. And I thought I was going to die. And I tell everybody, I'm pretty sure Brett saved my life that night. And I made it home. Made it home at 6 a.m, had to be at work at 7. That kind of sucked also, but I was alive and I hadn't smoked any crack. So, life on the whole, life was pretty good, and I got a good story out of it. And we stayed friends ever since, man. That was kind of cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never been around crack cocaine. I've seen some powder cocaine.
Yeah, if you're in the cowboy world, you're going to see some powder around, but that was my first crack experience.
I tried that stuff a couple times, and I liked it, and I decided I should probably just not do that anymore. Like it literally was a couple times, and I'm like, nah, I can see how people get strung out on this shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I like to smoke the green stuff. But
that's kind of where I'm at these days. I always used to think there was such a stigma attached to it that I was like, I'm not a hippie liberal. I'm not smoking that stuff. But to be honest, it's been really good for me because with how much I put on my plate, I'm a hard time sleeping at night a lot of times and just get anxiety about everything I have to do. And that's really helped me chill out and be able to sleep and be able to just, really almost be more present and not be so worried about what's happening tomorrow. So that's been good for me.
Yeah, it depends on you pick your poison on that, on strains, but you find one that I found some stuff that it just that focuses all my thoughts. And there's some of it where your thought you get to thinking way too much. And
I've had some that's way too strong, man.
Yeah.
I felt like I was on a trip. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I did. Speaking of the buying crack, I did buy a dime bag of weed on Beale Street in Memphis. But that's about the most gangster shit I've done here recently. But that I had to do that. I was like, I'm here. I gotta. And they smoke a different type of weed down there. I don't know what the strain is, but that it's the shit that just hangs in the air, Yeah. It's like real thick, real dank stuff. I don't know what it was, but
yeah, there's so much variety to it now. It's pretty broad. It's not like the ditch weed we had when we were kids.
Yeah. See, I never really started smoking it till it
I didn't either.
Till it was legal, and so now yeah, it's good for a bunch of those burnouts too, because they can go work at a weed store and then
that's right.
They actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
it's Maryland. I imagine it's illegal. It's legal there, isn't it?
Yeah, you can buy it at a smoke shop for the most part.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of weird there's county law, state law, federal law. So it's weird in some places. I know in New Jersey they can't. It's everywhere. But you will go and they'll sell you a rubber bracelet, and you buy the first tier. It's a $50 bracelet, and you buy that bracelet, and it comes with a free gift, and you get to pick what your gift is. And so you're buying the rubber bracelet, that says Mike's House of Weed or whatever on it, and but then they'll say, okay, so with this bracelet you can pick from anything on the shelf. And with this bracelet, you get this shelf, and that's how they get around it there. But there's a lot of weird laws. I don't understand all of it, but there's a lot of weird laws around it.
That sounds like that episode of King of the Hill where Peggy opens the bookstore, and then the Dale's Gun Club comes in there, and then they buy a book for $500 and they get the gun for free.
That's right.
Something like that.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different.
I forget. I think it was on. I was listening to Legion of Skanks, I think, and they're all from New York City, and they're talking about how like every bodega sells weed now, but that they're not doing it legally, but no. Like no, they don't. They just don't enforce it at all.
Now nobody stops it.
Yeah, and that for weed, that's what it should be, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I never thought, but see that's where I think like liberals have been right for a long time wanting to legalize it. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, for a long time I was like, we can't legalize it. It's going to wreck everything. People are going to be high everywhere. Truth of it is, it's probably one of the better things that's happened.
Yeah. I just wish Colorado wouldn't have done it, been one of like the first ones to do it. I wish they would have let a couple of other states do it first and they would have got all the bums first, but
yeah.
I don't know. It's Colorado. It's beautiful. You were going to get some bums.
Absolutely.
Bound to get some bums, I guess.
Florida is a similar state in that, Florida is so, their laws, it's pretty based, that state. Like, stand your ground laws. So, someone can mess with you. You could turn around and smoke them and you stood your ground and you're not going to jail over it. Florida is like Wild West days down there. But because of their laws, it attracts a lot of derelicts and a lot of people that are, pretty secret. Mm-hmm. But you've got, again, like you said before, you got to pick your poison. It's like, for me, I really appreciate the personal freedoms and the lack of government encroachment that Florida offers. So that's why I choose to make my residence. That's, I'm a resident of Florida, and I never thought I'd be a resident. I never in my life wanted to live in Florida, but now, with the way the world is, Florida was amazing during the lockdown. They really worked with people. They really made it so people could stay in business, and there was barely any lockdown there, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was a nice thing about being out in rural America.
Yeah.
Nevada. It was so weird because Nevada, on paper, was a terrible state during the lockdown. And if you were in Reno and Vegas, especially Vegas, but then it kind of was. But everywhere else was just like, I don't know. I guess are we still doing this? And life didn't really change much for me.
There was a big commitment,
yeah, and then the rural counties pretty quickly were like, nah, we're not doing that, and it was What a weird time, man. The last 10 years have been so insane.
Yeah. What's your take on what's happening now, as far as in the Middle East and stuff?
I think we're going to war, and I guess if we're going to war, I'd rather it be in the Middle East than in Europe, because
same.
If we're going to war in Europe, that means full scale mobilization, and that means the draft's coming back. That means we're at war with Russia, and that's not good.
That's right. I agree.
I don't want to go to war at all. We've been at war my entire adult life, and I'm kind of done with it. I've got a lot of buddies that went and got fucked up for nothing, and
the truth be told, I think that it's our poking our nose in there. I think is a tactic on the part of I can't even say Biden, but Biden's handlers, whoever manages the puppet. I think that it's like, hey, we don't have much of a chance here, because even Democrats are starting to see through Biden and see through kind of the sham that is our world leader right now. And I think that to try to give themselves some ground and to really kind of try to root themselves in there, why not pick a war? Why not pick a fight?
Yeah. Well, there's every president that's been had a war in his first term has been reelected.
That's exactly my point. That's exactly.
And And so, I mean, it kind of fits the mold. Biden's been pretty hawkish from the get-go. I mean, his greatest achievement was he got us out of Afghanistan. The
Yeah.
withdrawal was a disaster.
Terrible, man. But
No, I mean, no doubt. It was, that all being said, it was 13 dead.
Yeah.
As opposed to another couple thousand if we drag it on for another 10 years. And so while it wasn't pretty, and like I think heads should roll for how terrible it went, at least he got us out of there. And
I agree.
that might be an unpopular opinion, but whatever. I mean, we've been there far too long. And when you look back at that, when we could have had Bin Laden by Christmas of 2001 and out of there.
Yep.
And that's what's infuriating. Like, we had him. We could all they had to do was they said they didn't want to send too many troops in because they didn't want it to look like it was a full scale war.
Yeah.
And then we went and sent those troops in and more later on anyway. So like, what did it matter? Why not just get the job done?
Yes.
And that's always the thing. The Israel shit, it was bound to happen one way or the other.
Yeah.
That Gaza situation, I'm sympathetic to Israel and all the the Jewish state.
Yep.
However, you guys are kind of assholes to the Palestinians, and particularly at Gaza, like that's essentially an open air prison.
Yeah.
And it was only a matter of time till something popped off, and
yeah, it's been a long time in the making.
Yeah. My worry is that Israel's just going to lay waste and then turn the whole Arab world against it. And
yeah, it's going
that's-
to be another like 40-year war.
Yeah. And and the thing is, it's not 1967 anymore. All the countries around Israel are pretty well armed and have also had their own wars for the past 40 years too. So they're pretty seasoned fighters at this point too. So it's like it's gonna, if it pops off and escalates between multiple countries, it could get real ugly.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt that we'll be right back in the thick of it.
Yeah. And I just, my hope and prayer is that, some kind of resolution comes about and they lay things down and kind of on, but I'm not sure that's possible at this point.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I will say I'm no fan of Biden, but I'm rooting like hell for the guy because I don't like his successor there.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really fucking glad they didn't try to bomb him while he was over in Israel.
I know.
Honestly, that tells me that like they're really itching for war with Iran, and that shows like if there was a chance to like inflict maximum chaos on the U.S., that would have been it, because Biden goes down, Kamala's now the commander in chief, and then there's no Speaker of the House at the moment, so it would have been chaos, and
100%.
I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm really, really glad it didn't happen, and I don't know, man. It's it's weird because you have this whole Ukraine thing, which like it got pushed to the wayside with the Israel stuff, but like we're still like very precariously almost at direct hot war with Russia. We're in a proxy war with them already.
Yeah.
We're kind of poking China real hard.
Yeah.
And now we got shit popping off in the Middle East again. In the meanwhile, like our ammunition supply has been almost completely depleted.
Yeah.
Like Israel is short on ammo now because the stockpile that we were keeping there, we sent to Ukraine. We had to borrow ammunition from South Korea to send to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And and we're not on like a full war footing as far as the industrial production goes. So we're not ready to fight a war, but yet they seem like they're pushing real hard for a war somewhere.
Yeah. And that's, I couldn't agree with you more there. And I feel like, not only are we depleted on ammunition, but in the new military, the new modern military, it is so woke now that
Mm-hmm.
these soldiers aren't getting the same kind of training that soldiers 10, 15, 20 years ago were getting, because you can't be too hard on them, and
Mm-hmm.
you can't let that guy fight. You can't kick him out because he's too fat, and this one and that one. You can't say mean things, and you can't make them tough, and all of it. And I just feel like I'm worried we're becoming a little bit of a joke.
Yeah, I'm. Well, and they kicked out all the real door kickers because they didn't want to get the shot.
Yep.
They essentially forced them out.
Yep.
They're cutting of all things, they're cutting the special operations budget.
Yeah. Good.
Like I don't know how that happened when they just keep increasing the rest of it. And we're in like a whole new era of warfare too. Like it was really eye opening here a couple weeks ago when I was in Colorado for that Bronc Futurity. So Jeremiah Wilbur with War Party Movement, he's former Green Beret, and then he had a bunch of guys from his old squad were there, and and they've got buddies that are advising over in Ukraine right now, and they were telling him that it's like there's just drones everywhere, like
Yep.
commercially available drones, just like your Walmart type drones, everywhere. And then just like see them buzzing around, and if they're not dropping a grenade or something,
Yep.
like shortly after they leave, then here comes a missile bombardment, and like the cartels and stuff and the your militant groups around the world are also picking up on this deal because you saw what they did with Gaza. Like they took a couple those cheap drones, dropped a couple grenades on their communications setup, and essentially knocked out a multi-billion-dollar defense barrier.
Right on.
And it's so I mean at the end of the day, like I don't know if you're out. I mean, like you got Russia and Ukraine where it's like army versus army, but everywhere else in the world it's guerrilla warfare.
Yeah.
And if anything, like America's definitely not ready for conventional military war like you'd see in Europe. They're definitely more suited for guerrilla, what not unorthodox, unconventional warfare. That's more where they're suited to after 20 years of being in the Middle East. So
That's right.
I guess if I had to choose, that's rather those countries aren't near as powerful as Russia or China, and like we're a little more used to fighting them over there than So
I think it's a lesser of two evils, so to speak.
It's the one where we have a better chance of coming out ahead, I think.
Yeah.
And I guess if it goes to the spoils, at least there's oil down there. Like,
Yeah.
Europe's not giving us much. Like, I don't know why we're still friends with most of the European countries. They kind of suck.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they really do. So many of them are, they'll tell you what you want to hear to your face, and then they're, behind your back, they're kind of shirking any responsibility or any allegiance, and I think that that's something that we have to keep in mind and kind of contend with. I do think as much as the Israelis might be, they might be kind of asses about some things and maybe unfairly harsh in some situations here. I do believe in the importance of supporting Israel, and maybe it's just growing up in church and growing up, raised that, I was always raised that we have the favor that we have, and I guess the blessings we have in this country because we've always found favor in Israel. And so, I'm older now, and I'm not sure how that fits politically or not, but it is something that I always held on to, and I always kind of believed is that we've always kind of backed them, and we've always been a strong ally, and they've been a strong ally back to us, probably stronger than a lot of European nations and stuff like that. So I think there's an important factor that we support them, but how involved we get is kind of to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's a real complicated situation over there. Like it I guess what for me, like if people would just call the whole Israel situation what it is, what it truly is, which is a war of conquest.
Yeah.
It would just like call it what it is would make at least clear the air a little bit. It's like, all right, Palestine, this used to be Palestine, but it's now Israel, and get on board or we're kicking you out. They've essentially done that, but they've pussyfooted around it when they've had to, and then other times they've laid the hammer when they had to. And there's conquest is ugly. That's all there is to it.
It is, and I mean it went on here in this country long before white men ever set foot on this continent. You know, your native tribes it was always conquest. Who's going to take the best hunting grounds? We're going to steal their women and enslave their children and this and that. And then conquest is just kind of it's an ugly truth about for every modern civilized artistic culture that's out there, somewhere in its past nobody wants to talk about was conquest.
Yeah.
And it's part of it. But I think that looking at Israel, like this is something, it's them fighting is almost inevitable. Like you can slice it every which way you want, but I mean pre-biblical times those people were fighting with each other, and it is on and on, and it is just it's a tribal, almost a primitive concept. I think it's like, hey, these are our enemy, and I was raised, and my grandparents were raised, and their grandparents were raised that these are our enemy, and when there's enough heat, they're going to strike, and you're right, it's conquest, but it's also part of the evolution of society.
Yeah, it's kind of like deep down inside, we're all a little bit racist to one group or another. Absolutely. And like for me, it's like the French and the Brits, because like the French helped us win independence, and I kind of begrudge them for that.
Yeah.
And then fuck the British. Like I still don't understand why we're friends with them. Like we kicked them out a long time ago.
Yeah. And I think it's just a case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I think Britain takes a stand against a lot of forces that we're also against, and so it's kind of like the lesser of two evils. And it's like, well, if they hate Russia or they hate Nazi Germany and we hate Nazi Germany, so I guess it's better to be friends and have them as an ally than it is to be fighting them as well as Nazi Germany, and I think that's just the mindset there, But
we tend to go cause problems where we don't need to cause them, and then that gives us a reason to go clean up the and then at the end of the day, so like Saddam Hussein, I think the whole world can agree was a brutal dictator, horrible person, whatever. Us Americans have killed far more Iraqis than he ever did.
Yeah.
And so you're just like, maybe Ron Paul was right. We shouldn't have went. Maybe leaving Saddam in power was as bad as it was a better solution than. Yeah. It was because we've killed about 1 million Iraqis and displaced tens of millions, and thrown the whole region into instability and chaos. And so it's just like, oh, whoops, that didn't work like we thought.
Well, I think as much as so many people don't want to like Trump, one of the policies that I got behind, at the risk of people calling you a nationalist and such, is that we need to take care of our own housekeeping here before we fund.
Oh yeah.
And stick our nose in everything else. Like, I mean, look at just for starters, let's look at the mental health crisis that we have in this country. Like, literally a crisis. Like there are just everywhere you go, there's crazy people in the streets, and crazy people are always going to try to self-medicate. So they're drinking, they're doing drugs, and they're doing all this stuff in the
Well,
street.
and it comes from all facets. I mean, so
All
you
facets.
got like the homeless drug encampments in all the major cities.
Yep.
You have like this whole trans phenomenon where,
Yep.
let's face it, those are all mentally ill people for the most part that
Yep.
are they're shrieking about trans rights and whatnot. You have like the dude that tried to, I don't know if he was fucking Paul Pelosi, but either way he fucked him up with a hammer.
Yeah.
That dude was like a former nudist turned QAnon follower. And then, well, you have all these people that literally thought Donald Trump was gonna be able to implement martial law or something, and still be president. And they like was there were the feds involved? Yeah. Did they probably kick it off? Yeah. I don't know, but probably. But also, there was a lot of crazy fucking Trump supporters that were crazy enough to go along with it.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's some mental health issues going on there too. And you're like, how many pills were all these people on too?
Yeah.
Like, how many of these people honestly could be fixed if they just go run a couple miles every day too?
Yeah.
Like,
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I think that, one of the worst things we did in this country was get rid of, mental institutions, asylums, things like that, because at least you may not have fixed them, but at least there was somewhere for people to go that they could be kept safe from themselves. Other people can be kept safe from them. And I'm not saying that we need to treat them like animals and have deplorable conditions or anything like that, but we've got to do something about what's going on, because it's like we're just in this cycle of people are getting crazier and no one's doing a thing about it, and yet we're trying to help Ukraine and we're trying to stick our nose over here, and we're doing massive funding for transgender furry teens and all of this stuff. And again, I'll make it clear that I'm not against, whatever you want to do to your body, that's on you. But that shouldn't come out of my tax money to do it,
If you're an adult and able to make those decisions, yes, absolutely.
But then again, I'm all for some of my tax money going to help the mentally ill. So if you want to cut your wiener off and say that you're mentally ill, then why not? I'll support it, because I'm willing to support the mentally ill. But at the end of the day, like, I think that we're so busy, trying to fix all these other things that really don't matter that much. And we're missing the boat on bigger pictures here. We've got.
I agree.
We've got kids going to bed hungry here in our country, but we're trying to save kids in Ukraine. And while I don't want a kid to perish anywhere, I do want the kids in my own backyard taken care of first, because that's what our government's job should be.
Right. Well, and honestly, if like our government thinks like that going to war, like, and let's give them all the charity in the world.
Yep.
Take them at their word that they truly believe like this is an existential threat and a threat to American interests, whatever, and we got to go to war. And it's coming around. I don't know if you watch TV here lately, but like
I watch a lot of it, but what I've been hearing, it sounds like it's heading that direction.
Yeah. Well, so for the past 4 or 5 years, like all the military commercials have been inclusive, diversity, social justice, trans oriented. Well, I've been watching a lot of football because I think sports are actually very important in society. They're a way for warriors to stay in shape and blow off steam, so they don't end up killing a bunch of people.
Modern day gladiators.
Yeah, honestly, and people can look down on that or whatever, but I think it's an important part of society. I think it's essential. But also, now the commercials are starting to go back towards like the old 90s style where the they're showing badasses and
badass soldiers. Yeah.
And so like they actually effective recruitment stuff as opposed to all whatever the fuck we were doing this last like 5 years, So, but at the same time, you're like, let's just take them at their word that like this war is imminent and it's necessary and whatever.
Yeah.
At the same time, they're like feminizing an entire generation of young men.
Yeah.
Softening society to a point where like I'm not sure we can win a war. Like even if we had like we ramp up, say like we get to the like World War II style industrial capacity and whatnot.
Yeah.
And like the women are on the assembly lines and then the men, we're gonna have a bunch of really soft, weak, kind of pathetic people out there,
A saying that I love that I think is so relevant now is that hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times or soft times. Soft times make soft men, and soft men makes hard times. And I think we're in that cycle right now where, as much as people want to gripe about boomers and stuff, that boomer generation fought a bunch of wars for us. There's a lot of soldiers, a lot of warriors came out of that boomer generation. As annoying as some in the boomer, a lot of Karens and stuff come out of there. So it's frustrating. But I think that we're in a place where we haven't had a real war in quite a few years. Enough years that a lot of kids who are of draft age or of enlistment age right now, that younger side of that, they don't remember the horrors and kind of atrocities of war. I mean, looking back to like 9/11, that was 9/11 and like Desert Storm and the Iraqi wars were some of the first truly televised wars. Like we watched. I mean, I was a kid watching buildings blow up, people get gunned down on night vision and this and that. And literally right in our living room, we sat and watched the war being fought, and it was like you were a part of it. And I think that added to the level of patriotism and understanding. Like I remember just being a kid and understanding that like war is horrible. Like it's not to be romanticized. It's horrible. It's necessary at times, and we have to defend what we have, otherwise we won't have it. Because like we were talking about before, it comes back to conquering, and if you're not conquering, you're going to be conquered. It's kind of how it goes, unfortunately. But I think as kids, our generation, we were much more in tune to that. We understood that, like, as ugly and terrible thing as it is, it's a necessary evil. And now we have kids so far removed from that. Kids that were born in 2000 and around that time, they're adults now, and they don't have that kind of moral compass that we did. Because we were affected by all that. We saw 9/11 happen.
Yeah.
We watched that. We watched all these other underhanded attacks that occurred, and that made us realize some of us have to step up and be warriors. We got to be strong men and women, and now we're in a place where they're like, we need to resolve conflict through healthy conversation and love. And
I know it's. Hey, I gotta piss real bad, so let me pause this real quick, and we'll be right back. Okay, sounds good.
You bet.
I'm really glad you brought up that quote, and it's you hear around a lot, and almost to the point of being overused, but I don't think it is. It just it's so relevant to today's day and age, and I've always had a I guess I've had a kind of a unique experience through life. I was a foster kid for a little while. I lived kind of in limbo for several years, and I realized early, fairly early on that like the world's going to do what the world's going to do, and there's just a lot of shit you can't control. So you just focus on what you can do. And so I ran a lot. I played baseball was like one of my one of my getaway places. I hated riding horses when I first started, because I got thrown on the pukes, and I absolutely hated it. I got to where I loved it, but I'm at the point now where I got two kids, and they're old enough now to where they're involved in some activities. So like my boy, we took him to Boy Scouts the other day, and I was in for like a year or two when I was young, and I always kind of enjoyed it. And then we went to the meeting, and I was like, yeah, this would be a good thing. And then you start reading through like the Boy Scout oath, where it talks about being strong, reliable, and dependable. And it's like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to be. And so like, I want my kid to be part of this. And then there's a big stink here a couple years ago. Now there's girls in the Boy Scouts. And I thought I wasn't a fan of that. And then like the way they got it set up, I don't know. I'm kind of glad that my daughter gets to do all this stuff too. And once they hit, I think it's like 12, then they split them into different troops, and then they do their own separate activities and not co-mingle anymore. But so I'm like, I don't know. It seems like I still think there's nothing wrong with having something just for boys and something just for girls. But at the same time, after seeing it in practice, I don't hate it, you know. And so now my daughter's in Scouts, and she was gonna go. Her first choice was Girl Scouts, but they were too full. They didn't have enough room for her. So all right, fuck it. Now she's in Boy Scouts. Okay. So. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-mm. Yeah. Well, and also like the swimmer dude. Yeah, it's just like you don't have to be scared to be like, hey, you're a bitch. I see you. I see what you're doing. You couldn't hack it. And you're hopping on this latest trend. And so you're gonna go get your 15 minutes of fame. Meanwhile, you're walking around with your dick out in the ladies' locker room, and people are celebrating for it. And you know what you're doing. You know it ain't right, and you don't care because you're a piece of shit. I don't care what you identify as. It's a piece of shit at the end of the day. Right. And you know, like the WNBA thing is a weird one because like the women's March Madness, the championship game was one of the higher rated games ever. I mean, it was like a lot of people tuned in to watch it. And the women's tournament routinely gets like pretty good viewership. For whatever reason, the WNBA does not. I don't know exactly what the reason is. But it's not because of women. You can look at like UFC. There's like legit star women fighters in the UFC now. A lot of them. Like well-known names. And they get thrown in on cards regularly. Like either and sometimes main events, co-main events. But they're talented. They're really talented fighters, and they're fun to watch. So people watch. For whatever reason, I don't know why the WNBA. I don't watch basketball, so I don't. So I don't know why the WNBA is so bad, but like when college women's basketball does fine. So like the women's soccer team. People would watch it when they were good and they weren't all up on this political bullshit. Like back when Mia Hamm was playing, people would tune in and watch it because they were kicking ass. So it's not the product you're putting on the out to the market. Like the market doesn't want it, so get a better product. That's. That would be one sport where the trans women would really bring in the eyeballs because if you got LeBron playing against a bunch of chicks, like 200 points a game. But I don't know. It's just I'm the same way. Like I think back in the day, there was a I think it was like particularly down in Texas. Like there was no women on the Brandon crew. Like the women stayed and cooked the meal. And now there's women all throughout. So it's like come a long ways. And but it's just still there's a women do stuff that women are meant to do. And like it's a good thing that they do. Yeah. 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 That's absolutely true. I mean, it's. Yeah. It's. I don't know. I think people get caught up in trying to put things labels and groups and instead of just fucking living life, you know, like you worry about right and wrong, and then the rest of it gotta make up in between. Yeah. 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 Right. Right. Mm-mm. Uh. Uh-huh. It's a classic sleight of hand deal. They get you. All right, so immigration, abortion, guns have been argued about my entire life. I'll be 38 here in what is the day that's one out? Yeah, I'll be 38 here in like 10 days. And my entire life, those have always been like the hot button issues. And meanwhile, like you said, we're teetering on the brink of a war in three different theaters. All of which involve nuclear weapons, by the way. Because when you throw Israel into the situation, and you throw the Arab world in there, you kind of got to throw Pakistan, even though they're not Arab. But you got to throw them in there, and they're very much Islamic, and they've got nukes, and a lot of these crazy Arab countries have buku money to go ahead and buy a nuke from somebody. So right. Yeah. That's crazy. And then like you watch this Ukraine deal and it's essentially with all the modern equipment and technology, it's still kind of just reverted back to World War I style trench warfare. And like this Gaza invasion is the same fucking way, man, where it's going to be they've leveled huge parts of Gaza, which makes perfect cover for urban warfare. And they've got tunnel systems, and it's even if they do end up say they wipe out the Hamas leadership and whatever, like it's gonna be bloody. It's I mean yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. And also the indigenous force that is with you is also Viet Cong. Same way in Iraq, Afghanistan too. I mean, you can talk to any number of GWAT vets and they'll tell you about how shitty the local defense forces were and how many times they got fucked over by. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like you're gonna band together with whoever's like you to fight against not like you, and that like they're very few times is the local population gonna side with an invasion force. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I'd love if we were at the point in America, like if our government was, about to get us into another one of these stupid never-ending wars where we'd have enough, patriotic men just say no, we're not doing it. But I don't know if we ever get to that point. People are still pretty ingrained to just follow orders at some point too. So So that being the case, we do get drug into like I want our guys kicking ass. So like I want our soldiers on all the juice. I want to make sure that our men are hard. We have to. So like goes back to like what can you control? I've got two kids. I control how they're raised, and they will be scrappy. They'll be smart. They'll be crafty. They're gonna be survivors and mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. The weird part about all that too is when you peel back the layers of the onions, it's a lot like say Warren Jeffs or something like that with the fundamentalist more where like he's essentially he's leading the cult. He's because if you go to your average Iraqi, he's just trying to herd some goats, man. He's trying to but his view on LGBTQ is going to be roughly the same as a 80-year-old Southern man. Because that's the climate that they live in, where the powers that be are religious fundamentalists, and they're also happen to be very brutal, and they happen to have all the guns. So and they're also pretty good at propaganda too. They know their people better than we know their people. And because that they can get people to fight against us. It's an unwinnable war. Over there it's just like the best we can do is to try to keep good trade relations and use that rather as a carrot rather than using the stick of the U.S. military because as we've seen that has not been effective. Like we're really good at toppling governments, but we are not great at building them back up. No. Okay. Yeah. Mm, yeah. You got his contacts? Yeah. Hell yeah. I'd love to talk to him. I collect particularly like operator types, special forces. I collect those type of guys as buddies because We all saw how 2020 went down, and with all the riots, and from BLM all the way up to J6, like we saw how crazy shit got here. And if anything ever does pop off, I just know I feel okay because the people that I kind of gravitate toward have a lot of guns. So they're handy with useful productive stuff. Mechanics, farming, ranching, the blue collar type jobs. Maybe not so much on the tech side of things. So like I said, you got to have liberals play a part as well. But in the grand scheme of things, like I'm not a door kicker. I'm not a shooter. But I know a bunch of them, and those guys are gonna need beef. So you may gotta make buddies with make sure you're of use to some people that can get the real shit done. Mm. Yeah. Well, and it's cool talking to those guys that have they've seen some crazy shit, like on the covert side of things. And a lot of it, like I don't even ask about it, but you can ask about the people and the experience they have over there. And at the end of the day, they're a bunch of bros. Like they're just a lot of them can tend to be assholes. They're all very much alphas. But they're a bunch of dudes. And so like I enjoy their perspective on places I haven't been, and they tend to have a way different outlook on the world than a lot of people do, and it's a very realistic outlook. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, well, and it's a reason why first thing in the military is they break you down so they can build you up to what they need you to be. That's yeah. It's I guess if we're going back to like trench warfare type, like just high tech trench warfare, you can get rid of a lot of crazies in a hurry doing it that way. I mean, I guess offer free hormone treatment for signing up to be infantry, and you can just yeah. Right. But also like you're a soldier. You're a unit in a huge organism. Like if you're a soldier, you're a soldier. You have nothing else. You are nothing else. You're property to the army. Again, that's how it has to be. So like I'm a transgender. No, you're not. You are a fucking soldier. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. They're I don't think they won't. If they need troops, they'll do all. Yeah. It's funny though, like when survival mode kicks in at some point, and even like the slimiest of the Washington swamp creatures, they'll like if it actually comes down to like we're in a fight now. Like survival kicks in, and then like, all right, enough of your trans bullshit. We gotta get back to physical fitness. Mm. But they're not like the poor liberal. Like they're not like inner city liberal. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. It's a wedge. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I don't know. People fall for the divisive shit so easy. My dad, he was Colorado State representative for 8 years, and I think it was when North Carolina did the bathroom bill thing, and it was all. And so it was a big topic of discussion down at the clubhouse. Him, a bunch of old farts talking. And of course, my dad's kind of the wise elder. He's being in an office and being kind of an amateur lawyer at this point. They're asking him about this. My God, we ought to make this bill and ban him from using that restroom. He said, well, that's fine, but what's the fine? What is the punishment? How are you going to enforce this? Are you going to chit? Yeah, are you going to check their birth certificate? Because you kind of need a warrant for all of that. And it seems like an unenforceable law, so what's the point? Well, by God, something ought to be done. Well, sometimes the best thing to do is nothing. Like. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I made a joke about it yesterday, so I try to make at least one joke against the Catholic Church a day. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so like the Right. Well, it's the same way with like a lot of the Southern Baptist Convention. They a ton of yeah. It's mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And so it's it's all that stuff's gross too, and it's and I'm the same way with you. Like I was raised Christian, and I consider myself that. I don't go to church. I find myself disgusted with most organized religion in general. But I believe the tenets of what Jesus taught was like there's a lot of stuff in the Old Testament that I could sift through and find some good stuff there, and the rest of it I kind of like, I don't know. Yeah. And I'm not even fully convinced on the whole Jesus part. I think there's something out there. I don't know. I don't know the exact solution, but I also think there's that study all things and fast to that, which is true. So I think there's mm, mm-hmm. Yeah. You go back to the Old Testament, and I don't want to sound blasphemous or whatever, but like God was kind of an asshole. Mm-hmm. Got a real Palestinian type of flair to it, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Mm, yeah. That's kind of about where I stand. Yeah. That's pretty well said. I don't know. Like the origin story, all the length of time and all of that. I don't know. Who fucking cares? I think that's. Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Oh, man. I don't. I want the Mexican aliens to be true. But I don't think they are. UFOs. I don't know. I think a lot of that is experimental aircraft from the U.S. military. Yeah. I know a lot of that because I can't. However, there's also some spooky shit that can't be explained. Like the cattle mutilation stuff. I've had people. I've had people on the show talk about it. I've read a lot of accounts and so. I don't know. Same thing with Sasquatch. I want it to be real. I don't know. My father-in-law. He swears he swears he saw a Sasquatch on the river down here just a couple years ago. He swears that he saw a UFO, and his story has never varied. And he's a storyteller. Like I've heard all of his stories like 30 times, and he's yeah. So I don't know. It's funny when you listen to some of these tier one operators that work really heavily with the agency or even work directly for the agency. They'll all say that there's no way that the government can keep a secret for that long. But yet we still don't know who killed Kennedy. And I think I'm not saying they're full of shit. I'm just saying that there's a certain level of stuff that there's only a handful of people that know it, and they ain't saying shit. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. And then if you extrapolate upon that, And if you extrapolate upon that, God made us in His image, and you get to the whole Mormon thing, like maybe we're gods ourselves, and we get our own planet and stuff. And yeah. And it's funny. You get to looking up the stars, like particularly if you're a horseback, and it is real dark and just like big star type of night. Well, you can get to wonder and you feel real small. Right. Created by a Nazi, by the way. Created by a Nazi. You know. Also, like how dumb were us and the Soviets? Like that. Like we really didn't have I mean, we had a huge Air Force, but as far as technology-wise, it was kind of middle tier. Until we stole those Nazi scientists, and boy, howdy, we got us a real Air Force. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's wild. And also like our modern like agricultural industry is patterned right off like Nazi Germany and Mussolini's Italy too. Like it was all. Yeah, it turns out that fascism really is an efficient form of government. It's not necessarily the best, but it's efficient. And that's why most of the world adopted it after World War II. What's funny is it was the war to end fascism. Yet everybody adopted it afterwards. They're like, hey, maybe not do the whole Jew thing. Yeah. Well, it's funny. It's like the classic Lord of the Rings deals. Like you could have destroyed it. They could have all been hung at Nuremberg, but we didn't trust the Soviets not to steal them, so we got to steal them first. That's how. Oh yeah. It just they didn't call them dictators. They called them kings. Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's it's just it's kind of weird how it all played out like and now you look at it and it's like who makes the decisions? It's like whoever runs all these giant corporations because they're the one that funnel money into the politicians' pockets. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Iron Eagle, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yep. That's true. And I think the big I guess kind of the big dividing line is whereas as a fascist on earth is you like I'm the supreme leader, but as far as like a Christian, I bow before no man, I bow before God. And so I think that's a better way to live, because at least there's an admission that like all men are at fault. Like there are no perfect human. Only God is perfect. And so I bow before no man. And that's I think that's the left has a very strong like atheistic streak, which I'm not opposed to atheists in general. Like I don't care what they do with their lives. That's between them and God, I view. Right, and everybody worships something. Yeah, and that's whether it's mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like a lot of people became worshipers of Donald Trump here the last 5 6 years, and that's not good either. Like as much as I think I don't mind. He's not my guy, but I don't see him as a unique evil like these people lay him out to be. I think he's more he's every bit the corrupt animal that everybody else in Washington is, but he lays it bare and just almost flaunts it. Mm. Mm-hmm. You're like outlook. He's kind of a douche, but he's an all right guy. Uh-huh. Yeah. He's I really he says the quiet part out loud. That's why they don't like him in politics. He's no different than the rest of them. Right. And it's funny. You notice how they're not going after him on corruption charges. Because there's plenty of evidence, like the Jared Kushner hedge fund deal with the Saudis, Donald Trump's personal deal with Live Golf and the Saudis. That's corrupt as fuck, man. But they're not going after him about that because then they'd have to go after the Bidens, and they'd have to go after the Pelosi's and the Romneys and everyone else. Right. Right. And but it's funny. It's like that, all that stuff is right out there. Ready to be investigated and acted upon if they really wanted to do something about Donald Trump. But they don't. The stuff they could get him on, they don't go after because it sets the precedent, and then down goes a whole string of dominoes. So yeah, I think Trump is a slightly better politician than we've had in charge. But he's also kind of a dude, a billionaire dude. But he's I had a buddy from college. He's from Ohio originally, and he a dairy guy. And same way he's just he's kind of an asshole. He's kind of just he's kind of a douche, but I kind of like the guy, you know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, like the best credit you can give him is he has rearranged the Republican Party, and that's a good thing. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but he has implemented a pretty strong, I wouldn't say anti-war, but skeptical of war streak in the Republicans, and that is very much needed, particularly after our generation of buddies got sent over for nothing. Yeah. Well, any new wars, anyways. Yeah. But he also showed restraint too. Like he so like when he bombed Syria, he also put in a call to Putin and be like, hey, I'm hitting here and here. Get your guys out or I yeah. And I there was some things about Trump that I think on a lot of policies he was pretty solid. Some particularly spending not so much. I don't know how he can be effective anymore. He's so polarizing. Right. No, I think his gut instincts on a lot of things were right. I think his well, and it's a problem you get with any narcissist. They believe too much in their own bullshit. And he thought he was the best at picking people. Turns out he was kind of shitty at picking people in his cabinet. And they undermined him at every turn. Yeah. And well, he picked a lot of fights that didn't need to be picked, or he went about them in a. He got out Washington. I mean, he didn't drain the swamp, but he sure stirred it up a whole bunch. Got a lot of people to expose for who they really were. And no, I didn't either. He was definitely something different. He was like a FDR, but from from a family who made their money sketchily. He was not a blue blood. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be a weird one, man. I heard that since RFK's running independent now, they said he was polling at like 15 or 16%, which is that's massive for like that's Ross Perot numbers. Right. And so that makes me wonder, is Sir Hand going to make a comeback and give Bobby a visit? I posed a question to my buddies and my Fence Post Politics buddies today, and nobody would answer. But I said, who dies first? Biden, Trump, or RFK? Maybe. Biden's just, they've pumped so much Adderall into him at this point, he just never shuts off. Yeah. He's jacked. Yeah. Trump's a buffoon. That doesn't mean he's unintelligent. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he also can be extremely vague if you wanted to. Just be like, look at how big assholes these two guys are. And I think on a lot of issues, he's actually been very in-depth. He's been good at going in-depth on a lot of things. And some of it RFK. Yeah. But I think he's in a good spot where he can actually be. It's actually not a bad strategy for him to just be pretty vague and just take veiled shots at both Trump and Biden, talk about how they just divide people. It's a strong message. He doesn't have to be real specific. Like I said, he just. Yeah. I was pretty dead set on voting for him in the primary, but now he's independent, and I still don't know who I like. I can't see a scenario that Trump isn't the GOP nominee. I don't care if they if he's convicted or whatever. That's going to be the Republican candidate. I'm not sold that Biden's going to be. I don't think so either, but I don't. They really kind of painted themselves in a corner with Uncle Joe, and then he painted himself in a corner by I'm gonna choose a black woman, and then they man, she's bad. Yeah. No, I think he's just a product of the swamp. Oh yeah. And they're all think he's too damn old. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Did you see where they just played him off the stage in Vietnam after he called him a third world country? Oh, Shane Gillis on his new special. He said Biden, he gets done with the speech and he turns into a Roomba. Yeah. It would be a lot funnier if it wasn't real. You know, like if it was all a sketch. So. Yeah. I don't know. Like that. There's been several times on Finn's politics will have something. I'm just like, we deserve to be invaded at this point. Like we brought it on ourselves. Man, it's wild. It's wild, but. Oh well. Well, shit, man. It's late your time, so I better let you go. But man, this was fun. I enjoyed the shit out of it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I enjoy good conversation. You, sir, are good conversation. So, we'll stay in touch. I'll post this probably Monday, but let's think about a theme song for it over the weekend. We'll go from there. All right, sounds good, man. Well, you take care. All right, move your ass. We're burning daylight. Boom.
Me and the boys, we was playing a showdown Colorado way. And when we realized they had legalized, well, we thought we'd investigate. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than a little adventure just to shore up and morale. At least till the singer does a few too many milligrams of misadventuring somehow. We were met with a kid born for his job, highly skilled and desirable, who up till now the world had found to be totally admirable. He knew the strengths and the names, every hybrid strain the modern science has allowed. He said you don't have to toke it, you don't even gotta smoke it, 'cause they make it for you edible now. I want that old familiar drunken feeling washing over me this evening. I wanna be embraced like an old friend. Heart is racing, mind is reeling, that old familiar drunken feeling, something I can count on till the end. It's only noon, I'll be fine, showtime ain't till 9. I chewed and I told myself, but as the day wore on and on and on, it all went rapidly to hell. Well, I was high as a kite and it was freezing outside. I was terrified of people too, between shivering in the van and hiding in the can, 'cause there wasn't any dressing room. Playing a gig was the very last thing that I wanted on my mind. The best advice that I got all nights when old Skinner did opine. He said, don't try to fight it, yeah, you're just gonna have to try to ride the rank bastard out. So with that bit of wisdom and herbal terrorism on stage, I was freaking out. I want that old familiar drunken feeling washing over me this evening. I wanna be embraced like an old friend. Heart is racing, mind is reading, that old familiar drunken feeling, something I can count on till the end. I steeled myself, I said what the hell, and proceeded to forget all the lines. It was endless and seemed like a fever dream, western hats and neon signs. So in a desperate position, made the desperate decision that I'd handle this the cowboy way, which is to pour enough whiskey on the problem till it catches on fire or it goes away. So shot after shot, just like I was taught, suppress my feelings by all means. It was a mess, I guess, but nonetheless a mess fairly well known to me. So when the second set came, I was back on my game, and here's what I'd recommend. If you think you're gonna die 'cause you're way too freaking high, just drown it all in Pendleton. I want that old familiar drunken feeling washing over me this evening. I wanna be embraced like an old friend. Heart is racing, mind is reading, that old familiar drunken feeling, something I